When Jesus says, "When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth?" He is not asking if anyone will still be religious. He is asking whether the kind of rugged, God-centered faith seen in Scripture will still be present. The Lord is looking for the faith of Abraham, who believed God when circumstances made belief seem impossible, staking everything on God's promise rather than his own understanding. That is the kind of faith that clings to what God has said simply because he has said it, even when our feelings, our culture, and our fears are all pushing us the other way. We see that same kind of faith in Job, who could say in the midst of grief and confusion, "Shall we accept good from the Lord and not also trouble?" He did not treat suffering as proof that God had abandoned him, but as part of a wisdom he could not yet see. And we see it in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, standing before the furnace and saying, "Our God is able to deliver us from your hand. But even if he does not, we will not bow." That is faith that trusts God's power and goodness, and still refuses to forsake its calling if he chooses a harder path. In my own life, I have found that God's word on these matters is perfectly true. He really does know how to keep his children from evil. Again and again, he has intervened in my sin, shutting doors and surrounding me with warnings and corrections I did not seek but desperately needed. At a few points, his providence has been so unmistakable, through answered prayer, through extraordinary circumstances that could only be described as supernatural, even in one moment of seeing an angel, that I have been left without doubt that he is actively guarding my soul. Those dealings of God in my life are part of why I receive John MacArthur's preaching as a gracious instrument of that same providential care. His ministry has pressed me back to Scripture, exposed shallow views of faith, and called me to trust and obey the Lord in the pattern of Abraham, Job, and those 3 young men in Babylon. I am persuaded that I would be wise to let that kind of careful, biblical teaching light my path so that when Christ returns, he might find in me a real and persevering faith. If you have seen God's providence unfold in your life, drop a comment and share your testimony to support one another in our faith.